kind of against the majority of it, but there are a few circumstances where I'm for it, because there's obviously situations where the participant wasn't willing and stuff like that, or medical procedures. Sometimes it's medically necessary because either both of them die or you can only save one person. So that's where I kind of sit. I can't choose one or the other sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Like, there's definitely circumstances where a woman is sexually assaulted. She was not at fault at all for the pregnancy, and that'd be a really hard situation. And then, of course, if a woman's life is in danger, that's another really difficult situation that she's not at fault for either. So it sounds like, generally speaking, you'd probably be more so against it, but you would like some exceptions.
Yeah.
So I think the abortion issue, like, obviously it's very controversial. I think the media unfortunately portrays pro-choice people as like baby haters and pro-life people as woman haters, and I don't think that's accurate at all.
No, everyone's can have their own opinion. Whether I agree with them is a whole other story or not. I do agree some opinions aren't necessarily right, but in the end of the day, it's not my choice to force someone to believe something.
Sure, yeah. I mean, people make their own minds up on issues. And I think, as I've thought about this issue and studied it, it seems like it ultimately boils down to whether or not the unborn are human. And the reason I say that is because if they're not human beings, if the unborn are simply just like a clump of cells or a tumor or a cyst or something like that, then of course women should be able to get rid of that at any point, any stage of pregnancy, any reason at all, if it's not human. On the other side, if the unborn are human, then of course that would mean that abortion's killing a human being.
Yes, it would be.
And so regardless of one's views on like religion or anything like that, we don't, as a society, agree with killing innocent human beings.
It does come down to that. I've seen like some scientific stuff for both sides of they are or not humans. So, but in the end of the day, I don't make much of a choice because I don't feel I have a real role in that choice in the end of the day, and it's just not something I'm educated about. So I feel I have the ability to go and make choices for others and just be able to go advocate for people when I'm not educated on the topic.
Sure, and I actually think that it's an educated thing to not try to speak on a topic dogmatically that you don't know much about. So I definitely understand that. Would it be all right if I share with you like what embryologists say about that issue? So I have pictures of human development here. These are just stages of human development from right before fertilization up until elderly adult stage. So this first circle here, this is a sperm and egg. Obviously, these are not human beings. They're cells of the human species, but they're not human like you and me. When they come together, fertilization has occurred, and now we have a whole human organism. And it's the same organism at this first stage as it is all the way down here and at every point in between. And all it needs to continue its development is adequate nutrition and the right environment. And so it's metabolizing food for energy, reacting to stimuli, growing through cellular reproduction. So we know that it's at least like alive in the sense that cells in a petri dish are alive, or like a tree is alive. And because it has human parents, of course, it has to be of the human species. And so biologists would say that yes, it is a human organism. Where they might disagree is whether that human organism has like the same rights or value as you and me.
Yeah, I've seen common argument is more, does it have more human like brain functions? Like, does it actually have brain signals? And I haven't seen too much on it. I've heard it's one of those things where it's hard to test, and it couldn't do it ethically in a sense. You couldn't really ethically test that, but I do acknowledge that they're alive, and yes, they are absolutely alive, like the trees and everything around us and us.
And so there's a lot of different views on that, on the value side. Like, is it brain function? Is it consciousness? Is it self-awareness? And so something that really helps me think through it is just putting the unborn to the side and looking at really obvious cases, like people like you and me. Like, obviously we should be treated equally. We should have the same rights and equal value. And I think that's true for everyone here on this campus. It's true for Andrea, the camera woman right there. But it's kind of odd, though, if you think about it, that we believe that because we're so different. Like, I'm really tall. Most people are shorter than me, right? People with different hair colors, eye colors, skin colors, ethnic groups, intelligence levels, levels of consciousness, and also levels of capability.
Yeah.
And in order for us to demand to be treated equally, though, there has to be something that's like the same or equal about us to explain that. And so when I look around, like, the one thing that stands out to me, I'm wondering if it is also what stands out to you, like, despite our differences, we are all what?
I mean, we're human. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, we're human.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the fact that simply we are just human. And I think that explanation also makes sense of why issues like sexism and racism are wrong. Because racism focuses on a difference like skin color to discriminate against a certain group of humans. Sexism has a similar problem, and ableism, all other forms of discrimination, share that issue. And so kind of bringing it back to the issue of abortion, like, I agree that the unborn look very different from us. They function very different from us. And at implantation stage here, I would not recognize that physically as a human being, just by appearance. But I know that our value is not based on what we look like or what we can do, but rather by what we are. And so kind of, I think that if that is true for us, then that must be true for the unborn too. Otherwise, the foundation for our equal rights kind of crumbles. What are your thoughts on that idea?
That's another unique take I've heard. I can't say I've heard that argument before, but it's a very good one in my opinion. It does shed that light of, while yes, they don't necessarily look and function like us, they are, in the base you get down to it, genetic sense human. They do have those rights as a human.
The same kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. And, some people will offer alternative explanations. Maybe it's that we're conscious, as an example. And it's understandable. Like, consciousness is a significant human experience. But I think you run into an issue because a lot of things are conscious, like animals. And yet we don't afford them the same rights that we have. So it seems like it's not the consciousness that gives us rights. It's the humanness. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on it. But, yeah, do you have any other thoughts on that?
None that I can think of, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and so I think, like, a lot of pro-choice people might bring up, like, poverty or single motherhood or a lot of hard circumstances as justifying abortion. And, as a woman, I care about women in those circumstances. I would want to help them. And so I'm kind of like weighing on whether that would justify abortion. I think about, like, let's imagine that there is a woman who's in poverty and she has a 2-year-old toddler, and she fears that she won't be able to pay bills this month, much less put food on the table tonight. I think we would both agree that we should do everything we can to help her. But the one choice that we would not give her is the option to end the life of her child, to get out of her situation, right?
Like, I can very much understand that choice, because in the end of the day, it comes down to, yes, you need to be able to feed yourself, you need to help others, and there's just a bunch of other systems. All people argue for adoption, that system's still not the greatest. There's so many kids in foster care who still can't get a family, and it's still offered as an alternative, but it's not a good alternative still. If I feel like if people want to use that as the alternative, they need to fix the system.
Sure.
Before they can start using that as the choice of they shouldn't be able to abort because we have adoption. But the adoption system just sucks in the end.
Yeah, I think, foster care system absolutely needs reform, unfortunately. I mean, if a child's going into the system, they've already experienced some sort of abuse, neglect, or something of that sort, and then they might even experience it further in the system too.
Yes.
And I think, like, you're right, like, we need to do what we can to fix those systems and help those children, make sure that they have good parents. I think when it comes to abortion, like, whether that would justify it, I have to ask myself, like, there is currently many children in the system. We know that they're currently suffering and going to suffer in the future, likely. Yet we would say that their current or potential suffering does not justify ending their life. Seems like there's a hierarchy of values. Like, yes, we want to alleviate suffering, but at some point, suffering does not trump the right to life.
It does get to weird questions like that, honestly. Because, yes, in a perfect world, you wouldn't want to abort anyone. You would want everyone to live, but we're not in a perfect world, so it comes down to it. There are issues that we cannot control, and it honestly feels in the end, if you cannot offer someone a great life, if you can't raise them, if no one can help them, the system, why should we force them to live a life where they'll suffer? While yes, it'd be great for everyone to live, we're just going to give someone a miserable life. And yes, they could turn around, they could turn into amazing life. I won't deny that that's happened so many times, but where's the security in that? How could we know for sure that we won't be hurting another life in the end?
Sure. Yeah, and so I definitely understand where you're coming from. Like, if, from the perspective of, like, a child before they're born, would you say that you would hold that view, though, about, like, a child who's already outside of the womb? Like, if we had, like, a 2-year-old who we know is about to go into the system, would we say that the system is still better for them, though, than, like, ending their life right there, like euthanasia?
Yes, it would be better to put them in the system. Even though it's not perfect, it's still a better option than what they currently have.
Sure. Yeah. Why do you think that is, though? Because the system...
It does get to that weird. It's just something I've grown up with, and that's just how it just appears in my head. But yeah, it's those other weird questions of why don't I think the other way? And I don't know, honestly. I don't. It's just the way I've always thought, and I'm always willing to change, and I've heard some great arguments for it today, and it's making me think about it right now.
Okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we kind of do assume that it's wrong to kill toddlers without really thinking about it. It seems pretty intuitive to us.
Yeah, it is.
I think that the reason is because we see that toddler as a human being. We, like, recognize that, yes, their suffering should be alleviated. We should try to do that, but because they're humans, they have a right to be protected from harm. They have a right to life. And so kind of bringing that back to, like, the unborn, I think that if that is true for the 2-year-old in the foster system, then I think that would also have to be true for the unborn, because they're also human like that toddler.
Yeah, I think it's a very compelling argument.
Okay,
It's a very well point. They are definitely human, so they should get the same rights in the end.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you thinking and talking through it all with me. Do you have any other thoughts, or?
Not really. Like I said, don't know a whole lot on it, so I don't share my opinion on a lot of this. It's more, I kind of keep it in our friends' discussions on the little we all know.
Yeah.